The New York Jets may have some needs they could still fill through free agency, but the salary cap may not be allowing that to happen. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log in to JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So we've talked about this a little bit in recent weeks. We've talked about it with the John Franklin Myers trade. Of course, the Jets letting him go for pennies just for the salary dump more than anything. There was talk of, the Jets had mentioned, we tried to get John Franklin Myers to come back, but we were too far apart on money. I don't know how much the Jets were offering John Franklin Myers, but he signed his deal with the Broncos, and it's for like 7.5 a year, 7.5 million a year. Were the Jets asking him to play for like vet minimum, like 3 million a year? I mean, 7.5. The Broncos got a good deal there. So it looks as if it's not that John Franklin Myers wasn't willing to take a big pay cut. He just wasn't willing to take like an 80% pay cut or whatever the Jets were asking. I don't know what they were asking. But I do know that, again, he signed today for 2 years, 14, 15 million with Denver. Happy for the guy, good player. Now this is an opportunity for guys like Michael Clemens to step up, a guy like Javon Kinlaw coming in from San Francisco. But the Jets they don't have cap space right now. And, there's not a lot you can do about it. We've talked about that. We've talked about the moves they can make to free up a little cap room. You can extend DJ Reed. You can extend Hassan Reddick. You might be able to rework Quinnen Williams. Those are a few moves. But with where the Jets are right now, and looking at this team, looking at, we've said, right, win now team. You've got the quarterback. You've got a bunch of running backs. You have some receivers. You're hoping God forbid Allen Lazard bounces back and has even a decent season as your fourth wide receiver. That can make this offense special. I mean, the offense could be special anyway. But if you add another weapon to that arsenal in Lazard and he becomes productive, which he has been in the past, so and in the not very distant past, 2 years ago he had almost 800 yards. So it's not like the guy hasn't played at a solid level in recent memory. But you've got the quarterback, you've got the receiver. We've gone over it. You've got tons of depth all over the place. But one spot where the Jets really could use some help is at safety. And if you're a fan and you're following closely, you're saying it. You've seen a million other people say it on Twitter and Facebook and every other place where you go to talk about the Jets, the JetNation forums. Justin Simmons, safety Justin Simmons. It feels like such a no-brainer move to add a veteran of his stature, a multiple-time Pro Bowl player. Yes, he's 30, probably lost a half a step, but he can still be a good player. In terms of experience, production, what he would bring would go far beyond what the Jets have on the roster right now. Robert Saleh being a defensive-minded head coach, it's hard to believe he wouldn't welcome that arrival with open arms. But apparently, I think what the Jets may be up against here is two things that I heard the other day in regards to Simmons. He wants to go to a place where he has a chance at the postseason. He would absolutely have that with the Jets, despite what some of these idiot talking heads say in the media. This team, as currently constructed, is absolutely postseason worthy. And the other thing, though, is that he knows what his resume is, and he doesn't plan on playing for cheap. And that's where the Jets are going to be a little bit stuck, because if they're as I just said, they just try to get John Franklin Myers to play for well below market value. And they don't have a lot of room to create. They don't have a lot of ways to create cap space. So can you get a guy like that to come in here to join this secondary, to join Sauce and Reed and Tony Adams and Chuck Clark and Ashton Davis, become a leader in that secondary, likely a leader on this defense? Can you get him to come in for basically small money? And if the reports that are circulating right now are true, then that's not going to happen, because the Jets just don't have the cash. As I said the other day, the Jets have, this is per over the cap right now. Like, just looked it up. Number hasn't changed. 9.1 million in cap space is what the Jets have right now. They need that to sign the rookie class. So they essentially have zero cap space. That's not good. If you're looking to add a guy like Simmons, you can spend to the cap and free up a couple million somehow going into the season, but it's not the worst thing in the world to be spent to the cap if you're a contender, which the Jets should be. So I'm not knocking them for being against the cap, and I know there's dead money, But what were your options there? You weren't keeping Zach Wilson. You weren't keeping Laken Tomlinson. Unfortunately, you weren't going to ask JFM to play for a reasonable, fair amount of money, so he was going to go. So there wasn't really, having all this dead money wasn't avoidable. And a million, listen, let's be honest, a million teams have times, you look at them over the years, the up and down, up and down. Teams go from having 50 million one year to being, 20, 30 million over the next year, and they have to cut guys to get in compliance. So it's not unheard of for teams to be flirting with, with disaster when it comes to the cap. In fact, next year, the Jets currently, all that dead money will be gone. And as of right now, they'll be at 70 million. And that's without reworking Reddick. That's without, again, I think you could see Lazard let go after this season, unless he absolutely plays out of his mind. I don't see him coming back. CJ Mosley took that huge pay cut, but he's a $16 million. Actually, he's 16 million in dead money. So he's I'd imagine he's hanging around. Well, again, that's actually pre-June 1st. But we're not going to go through the whole roster. Basically, where the Jets sit right now is they have no cap room right now, projected to have 71 million next year with a lot of maneuverability, with a lot of guys they can let go of if they feel like they need to. But right now, if they want to go, and this is, again, I talked about this the other day, and folks may not want to hear it. Some folks may not want to hear it. The salary cap is real, as we are seeing right this very second. The Jets had to let go of a very good defensive lineman in John Franklin Myers because the salary cap is real. The Jets can't really make a run at Justin Simmons right now if they wanted to because the salary cap is real. If the Jets wanted to go out and get a receiver, I don't know that they would at this point. You've added Corley, but we know in the past they wanted, they wanted the big name marquee guys in the past, trying to make a run at Tyreek Hill, trying to trade up in this year's draft. Well, at the moment, according to many reports, the San Francisco 49ers are willing to trade Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. You don't think the Jets would love to have one of those guys? Now, Samuel may be a little redundant. Again, Corley may change things a little bit. But even if you wanted to make a run, if you wanted to say, let's get another weapon in here, you couldn't. You just don't have the cap space to do it. So for all the talk, and I get it, the thing is with the cap, and this is what I always say, yes, it is malleable. It is, you can do things to make it work. But that doesn't mean it's not real. That doesn't mean you can't hit a point where you're looking at your cap room and you're looking at the holes on your roster and you're looking at free agency. There's going to be times where you go, you know what? The cap's not going to let us do this. It's not unless we get this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. If we get a bunch of dudes to take huge pay cuts, we might be able to make this work. But otherwise, there's not a possibility. And that's sort of where the Jets are right now, right? They've got essentially zero. Let's see. Charles says he was hoping they'd sign another wide receiver, and they may. It won't be a big time wide receiver. And there's not many of those out there anyway. There's, again, even Ayuk and Debo would have to be via trade. I think is it the Bengals? Is it Higgins? Whoever was out there a couple months ago is still surprisingly out there. But with the addition of Corley, I don't know that there's going to be a situation where they'll go out and get a quarterback a receiver. But there are options if the Jets, if they were in position, if they had that money, but they don't. So to all the salary cap is fake, folks, take a look at the Jets right now. You're not going to convince me they wouldn't love to make a run at Simmons and bring him in and add him to that second. And they might. Like I said, there are moves to be made if he's still out there when those moves get made. If, the Jets could choose to just keep guys' deals where they are now. I'm just saying if they wanted to make a move, there are a couple of things they could do. Reddick, I would assume, I don't get why you wouldn't extend that guy now or give him a new contract now. But we haven't seen that happen. So, but again, this isn't the time of year. You never know when these things will pop up. But the Jets have been otherwise occupied, other than working out new deals for guys like Reddick. But maybe that time comes in the coming days, weeks, months. We'll see what happens there. But what's happening now is the Jets are opening up or kicked off rookie minicamp. We've got some notes from there today from Around the Beat. Aaron Rodgers, a full go. I mean, did anyone not expect this? That when the Jets open up camp, Aaron Rodgers will be. They were hoping he could be playing live football games way back in December. Um, this is one of those weird things where it's like, did that really have to be asked or answered or announced? But then once it's out there, you kind of have to. You can't not mention it, right? So Aaron Rodgers expected to be a full go when training camp opens up, which is obviously it's expected news, but it's still nice to hear it. It's still nice to hear it, officially. And this came from Robert Saleh, apparently, saying once phase three hits, we're not anticipating any restrictions from what we can and can't do with him. Some notes here. These are from Rich Cimini of ESPN New York. I still almost said the New York Daily News. So many years there for Cimini. But let's see. Olu Fashanu, and this was a great point made by, I believe it was Chris Schubert during our draft coverage. May have been Dylan. I'm sure it was Chris. Bringing up the point that the Jets have acknowledged that with Tyron Smith this year, they do plan on finding a way to keep him healthy, i.e., not a lot of practice, not doing a whole lot of practicing. So if that's going to be the case with Smith, you now get Fashanu, who's not going to be starting, but he will be getting a lot, probably the majority of practice reps. So it's an interesting thing. It's not a situation where you rarely see that. You don't normally see a guy who gets drafted who's not playing but getting a ton of reps in practice. And that could help accelerate his progress, accelerate his development, which should be good news for everybody. I saw somebody say I keep seeing people say maybe Fashanu will work at right tackle, maybe he'll get some reps at guard. That's not something the Jets have said at any point. And when Joe Douglas was asked in Detroit what the plan was, Joe Douglas was like, the plan is left tackle. He played left tackle in high school. He played left tackle in college. He's going to play left tackle. Now, Douglas may have meant, for the long term, that's how they project him over the course of his career. And maybe they are open to having him work at some other spots during the season. Who knows? Do they want to risk stunting his development? I don't know. And I'm not saying I would be opposed to it. I love the idea of doing what you can to get a guy on the field as soon as possible, get a guy some reps. We saw it so many years ago with the Ravens with Jonathan Ogden, drafted as a tackle. Didn't look like a guard, but he played guard and he played well as a rookie, and then he moved to tackle and he went on to have a great career. So could the Jets say, you know what, we're going to play the best five and we think he is one of the best? That'd be great. I'd feel a lot better, about the pick, about, if you've been listening to my show for months now, my biggest heartache is the concern of going 2 years in a row where you use a premium pick on a guy who doesn't play, which would be wild to me. But let's see. Olu's the one who said, yeah, and that's the thing, Red. I mean, especially, I got to attend the combine years ago, but you don't even have to have attended it. Anytime anyone asks a rookie what they're willing to do, it's everything. You want me to hold? You want me to long snap? You want me to be the gunner on specials? I'm a left tackle, but I'll do it. Like, everyone is willing to do everything in that rookie year when they're trying to make an impression. Very, very, very rarely. I can't remember the last time I saw a rookie get asked, would you be willing to do this, whatever this may be? And that rookie going, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, it just doesn't happen. So I get it, and it's nice that he openly said he's willing to. But it was the Jets and it was Joe Douglas who said left tackle. But again, there have been times in the past where this team says they're going to ask a guy to do this or that, and they ask him to do something different. It's not, we don't have a need to know, honestly. They could be working him at right tackle a ton. They could be working him at left guard a ton. They're under no obligation to tell us. Joe Douglas could have been completely lying when he said that. Maybe the plan is to have him work at a bunch of different spots, which would be weird given the Elijah Vera Tucker situation. I'm not one of these people that believes playing multiple positions causes injuries. But the Jets, I think because they wanted something to blame for AVT's injuries, they said they believed it, contributed. But so yeah, he might play multiple spots. I just don't see it. And we'll just have to give it some time and see what the Jets do there. But again, that was a point Cimini made that I thought was interesting because one of our guys, either Chris Hubert, Dylan Terman, one of them said it during the draft show. Malachi Corley, Cimini says it's going to be fun, or I think he's quoting Saleh, said it's going to be fun trying to utilize him. He notes that Corley has to polish his route running, which I think just about everybody said. We talked about it, and we during the year, going back, I tweeted out something about how I liked Corley as a prospect, and a couple folks said, "Yeah, his route running, he can't do this, he can't do that." It's like, right, but we know what he can do. Ask him to do that and work on the other stuff in the meantime. You're very rarely going to get, you're almost never going to get an NFL draft prospect who is ready to go in every single facet of the game from day one. Everyone's going to have to develop in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So if with Corley, yeah, he's got to develop a more expansive route tree. He's got to do more than what he does now, but he can do that. He can learn. That's, well, you're hoping the coaches can get him there, but that doesn't mean you can't put him on the field and ask him to do what he does well. That's the point. I've that that was. I feel like I look back at Vernon Golston, and that was, I think that's when I knew he was a bust. Especially I went to a couple games that year and focused on him when he was on the field, and just thought this guy isn't doing anything well. Like there's nothing that you can look at and say, oh well, he did that really. He was really good at that in college, and it's translating to the NFL. But he has to develop other parts of his game. He literally, it was bull rush, stonewalled, bull rush, stonewalled, bull rush, stonewalled. He wouldn't throw in a move. I'm like, are we going to see a rip, a swim, spin, something? And there was nothing. There was nothing you could look at and build on and say, okay, he has to develop, but at least he's doing this well. At least this thing is working for him. There was nothing. So with Malachi Corley, I think what you're going to see is a lot of the screens and the type of stuff we saw Western Kentucky run with him in college, and go from there and let him develop while he plays and contributes in whatever way he can. My info says Travis needs to put on 20 pounds. He probably doesn't need to put on some weight. I agree with that. But he's a guy who won't be doing much this week. But I think they said they expect him to be ready by camp, which wouldn't be surprising. He sent out a video, feels like it was about a month ago, if not more, of him working out and some of the stuff he's doing with that ankle, saying that he's ahead of schedule. So if he's ahead of schedule now, and you're not, practice starts in August, you feel pretty good about him being ready once things do kick off. Let's see what else Rich Cimini had to say. No restrictions for Rodgers. We expected that. Travis expected to be ready for camp. We expected that. Fashanu practice reps, of course. So those were the notes from him. Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential pointed out. He said that some of the quarterbacks look good. The Jets have right now in camp with them, in rookie camp, there are 6 quarterbacks. Now, of course, we all know about Jordan Travis. I'm going to pull it off here. Somebody put a list on the forums at JetNation.com, saying, so we've got Jordan Travis, who we talked about, Pee Wee Jarrett, a guy we talked about the other day, undrafted free agent from West Florida, big arm, big dude, runs guys over when he gets ahead of steam. As I mentioned, I was a little bit surprised how easy he was to bring down when he got caught behind the line, i.e. before he got rolling. Ben Bryant from Northwestern, played at Northwestern, played at Cincy, played at Eastern Michigan, actually played at Cincy twice. So he moved around a lot. Now, there's a lot of ways you can view that. And without knowing more about his situation, you don't know, is this a guy who just doesn't like it when he doesn't get his way and leaves? Is he being pouty? Are coaches coming to him, telling him, hey, look, the way, things aren't working out the way we thought. Maybe you should look somewhere else. So without knowing much about the guy, is it him? It's almost like a relationship problem. It's not you, it's me. It's not me, it's you. Like, what's going on? You got a new girlfriend every 10 minutes. Something's wrong here. If you're looking for stability, which you would think a quarterback would be. So, but he's an interesting prospect because he wasn't bad at Cincinnati. Last few years in college, Eastern Michigan, Cincinnati, and Northwestern, I believe. 42 touchdowns, 20 touchdown passes, or 20 interceptions. And according to Leberfeld, he looked impressive in camp today. I think Dan took a little heat because he said the kid looked good and then posted a picture of him throwing a little flare 5-yard pass, to which he said, hey, that, we're not allowed to film every single throw in practice, but when we weren't filming, he made some good throws down the field. So who are the other quarterbacks? Andrew Peasley, have not watched him at all. Darren Granger from Georgia State, watched him a little bit. Um, Runs really. In fact, watch. He had again. If you're Georgia State playing LSU, if you can, if you can find the end zone once, I'm going to give you some props because you are so outmanned, you are so outgunned. LSU versus Georgia State. I watched that game earlier in the year, and Granger did lead Georgia State on an opening drive touchdown against LSU. Had one deep ball completion on the right sideline, a little bit underthrown, but did get them in the end zone. And then Kobe Suits, Houston Christian, have not watched at all. So it's going to be impossible to go because literally this camp is a few days long, and then they're going to announce, if anyone's stuck. And, chances are a couple guys will, but not that many. Oli Melanfonwu, remember him? The uber athletic, crazy, fast, crazy, long, I believe first round pick, if I'm not mistaken, from UConn. I saw his name on the. I mean, listen, some teams will bring veterans. You look down that list of camp invites, and you'll see a couple of ages that jump off the page. Who's this 28-year-old? Who's this 30-year-old? Melanfonwu, 30 years old. Listen, with the need at safety, I'm sure the Jets are going to take a close look at him because they need some help. They need some help pretty bad. Oh, sorry, pretty badly. So you've got Melanfonwu. You've got we talked about Simmons as a possible free agent addition. I don't know what's going to eventually pan out at safety. I would be really surprised if there's not an addition there. So bringing him in is a little bit of it's you're just kicking the tires on a guy, a veteran safety was a former first rounder, who, as I said, is incredibly athletic, and you bring in guys at positions of need where you don't already have established vets. And that's the thing with the Jets right now. And it's important when looking at the draft, because there were in some aspects of the draft I was a little bit critical, but there's something I said before the draft that does play into it, which is we were looking at this roster and trying to be realistic or honest about how many holes are on the roster. Like you can want to draft 12 guys. Yeah, Joe, keep trading down. Let's get 15 picks. The more the merrier. How many actual holes are on the roster? Not that many. Definitely, I mean, after the draft now, you got 4 running backs. And somebody tweeted to me earlier. I don't know if this was accurate. And listen, I would love for it to be true, but I would just it's so rare that a team would do something like this. Former Jets linebacker Bart Scott apparently sort of insinuated that the Jets would keep 4 backs and have 2 explosive speed guys in Izzy and Brees, and then a couple of power guys in Davis and Allen. So that would be shocking to me if we saw them hang on to those guys, to all 4 of those guys. But I would love it because, again, I'm an Izzy guy. I think Davis, there might be other ways to get him involved. And I do love the idea of Braylon Allen, that sort of bruiser, that power back from the goal line. So there are some opportunities there. But main takeaway today, whatever time it is where you are. I don't even know what time it is where I am. 3 in the morning, 3 a.m. The cap situation for the Jets is not a good one. But, and again, I'm not complaining. I'm not knocking Joe Douglas. I've seen it, again, once people decide they don't like someone, that's the end of it. And the people who've decided they don't like Joe Douglas they no longer want to talk about the Jets. They don't want to talk about the talent on the Jets. You talk about the talent, you know what they want to talk about? The dead cap money. I don't care if we got Aaron Rodgers and Brees Hall and Sauce Gardner and Hassan Reddick and Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams and Quinnen Williams and DJ Reed and Mike Williams and Garrett. Don't care. Now I want to talk about cap space. Now I'm a cap space fan. I'm not a Jets fan anymore. I like talking about cap money and dead money. Listen, like I said, once people decide they don't like somebody, it's often nothing anyone. Now, if this team were to win a Super Bowl, all those people would go away. Everyone will have loved Joe Douglas the whole time. Nobody will have ever disliked him. Everyone will have known all along he was the right man for the job. Look, he's not been a perfect GM. No GM is perfect. I said, that's kind of my point. Whenever someone says, "Oh, but he missed on this guy, he missed on that guy," yeah, guys miss. Every GM misses. Show me the hits. And right now, via trade, via free agency, via draft, whole lot of hits. Tons of hits up and down that roster. It's going to be all about health. Got to stay on the field, got to stay healthy, got to win some football games. Have a good one, Jets fans. We will catch you Wednesday night. Myself, Dylan, and Chris have a lot of stuff going on. They're going to try to make the show, but they're questionable. I'll be around. They'll be on if they can. But we will keep the Jets content rolling. Keep checking out JetNation.com. As I said, most active message board on the web. 6 million posts the other day. Well, not on the day, but I believe the other day JetNation.com hit 6 million total posts. That's just Jets fans talking Jets football, bouncing ideas and insults off of each other 24/7. Have a good one, Jets fans.